Idaho Matters podcast is brought to you by St. Luke's On-Demand Virtual Care, which allows patients to see a provider from their home using a computer or smartphone with on-demand care for common ailments, such as a cough, sore throat, or a sinus issue. More information at stlukesonline.org.
Tired of endless headlines and information overload? Let the Connector simplify your mornings. Each weekday, Boise State Public Radio brings you Idaho's essential news. Clear, concise, and easy to digest. No noise, no clutter, just what you need to know. So take a breath, press play, and get connected. Listen to the Connector Idaho Daily News wherever you get your podcasts.
From the studios of Boise State Public Radio News, I'm Gemma Cadet. This is Idaho Matters. When the Challenger space shuttle exploded in 1986, New Hampshire teacher Christa McAuliffe was one of the 7-member crew who perished as the craft broke apart during takeoff. She was chosen from a pool of more than 10,000 applicants in NASA's Teacher in Space program, and kids across the country remember her curly hair and her enthusiastic smile. Idaho sculptor Benjamin Victor captured her essence and vitality in his incredible bronze sculpture of McAuliffe that now sits at the New Hampshire State House. Victor took on the commission to sculpt a lifelike bronze of the astronaut, and Idaho Public Television was at his Boise studio to document the process. Idaho Public Television host and producer Marcia Franklin and director and editor Troy Shreve put together the documentary Lifting Legacies, Sculptor Benjamin Victor for the Created program, and they're joining us now to talk more about this. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Gemma.
So, Marcia, tell us who Benjamin Victor is. Tell us a little bit about him.
Sure. Well, Benjamin Victor is one of our country's most accomplished sculptors, particularly in the arena of representational sculpture. He studied in South Dakota, and his work caught the attention of former Boise State President Bob Custra when he came to do a commission here. And subsequently, President Custra brought him to the university as what's called a professor of practice. And Benjamin Victor just loved Boise, and so he stayed, and he has a studio here that's quite amazing. And he is in demand worldwide for his sculptures, many of which use the lost wax process, which is an ancient process of making bronze sculptures. So he is really one of our most accomplished sculptors in the United States and frankly in the world. And he has 4 of his sculptures in the National Statuary Hall collection of the United States Capitol, 3 of which are in the actual rotunda of the United States Capitol, which is quite a high honor. He has more sculptures there than any other living artist. So he is really kind of a Michelangelo in our midst, I like to say. And it was just an honor to be able to follow his process as he sculpted this 8-foot-high statue of Christa McAuliffe, as you mentioned, when there's another connection as well to Idaho. Barbara Morgan, the astronaut from Idaho, was Christa's backup. And so she's part of the documentary that Troy and I have put together as well about this sculpture.
So, Marcia, as you just mentioned, I mean, he really is a kind of a Michelangelo in our midst, right? I mean, especially when you think about the fact of the statues that he has in Statuary Hall. I mean, that is such an accomplishment. So how did you find out about this particular sculpture of Christa McAuliffe?
Sure. He was always on my radar to do a piece for Created. And then we were contacted by New Hampshire Public Television. And they, obviously there was a commission, as you mentioned, to make a statue of Christa. This came from the highest, from the governor of New Hampshire and a commission. And so they knew that they couldn't come out here and document the process. It would be too far for them to keep coming out. So they asked if we would get some footage for them. We said, sure. And as Troy and I proceeded doing this, we realized that there really was something quite extraordinary here that would make a great documentary for us as well. So New Hampshire did use some of our footage of Benjamin sculpting for their documentary, which focused on Christa and the unveiling. And we used some of their footage of the unveiling of the statue, for our documentary, which really follows the process. And what makes Benjamin Victor so extraordinary is he is quite prolific. He works very quickly, and he is just expert in this process of creating these bronze sculptures, but he also puts research into it. He gets very close to the subject matter, and if the person is deceased, to their family, their friends, he plunges himself into research and really becomes emotionally invested in the sculpture. And I think that's what takes it to yet another level beyond his artistic ability. So we followed the whole process from sculpting a small model to molding it to the actual bronze pour in Oregon, the welding, and the patina.
Troy, what was it like for you to watch this process? To watch the sculpture come to life.
Yeah, thanks. It's fun watching Ben and wondering what's going on in his mind as he's sculpting this thing. I mean, I've worked with a little clay from time to time and played with those tools, but to watch the master at work, it's pretty cool. And the sculpture really came to life for me a little later in the process when the welder was putting the pieces together. That guy and his wife, they're magicians. That was really fascinating. So yeah, it was really neat.
So Troy, Marcia mentioned. Oh, go ahead, Marcia.
No, go ahead. I was going to say it was hard to film as well.
Well, is that because he worked so fast, Marcia? Because I'm wondering how long it took from start to finish.
Well, this particular commission was very fast. He only had 7 months to do everything, not just the sculpture, but everything. Normally he has over a year, sometimes even upwards of 2 years, I think, but definitely over a year. But I think, what was also hard, and Troy can explain more, is that to get a process like this, to get all the angles, and especially when it's happening really quickly, like the pour, we had, Troy can explain, we had more than one camera, sometimes 3 cameras taking care of this.
Yeah.
So Troy, talk a little bit about that because, and the reason why I ask for people that may not, fully understand this is that if you were on a 1-camera shoot, I mean, you're definitely not going to get everything. So kind of walk us through that camera process, because you also can't say, oh, can you stop and do that over?
Yeah, when you're pouring molten bronze, you can't just pause and let me move around to your shoulder here.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing how many people and how many steps were actually involved in this. That I really learned a lot about this lost wax process, and it was a little hard to wrap my head around early on, to be honest with you. But yeah, so we had multiple cameras, as much as we could. So we kind of have a shot list in our head of the different angles we want to get, but it's a process. Step 1, step 2, step 3. So we have to go through that list multiple times throughout, just to make sure we have enough to work with in the end. So that ends up being a lot of hours and hours of footage and a lot of data to move around in the edit, and the conditions too in the foundry, especially. That place was extremely hot. It was over 100 degrees at times, and our one of our cameras did overheat. We had to sort of set it aside for a little bit, and but it's a lot of steps and finding out what's going to happen. So we would work with the artist and the other artisans who were part of this process, and talk to them and be like, okay, walk me through what's going to happen. Don't actually do it yet, but show me. So we kind of slowed them down a little bit, but it's something that needed to happen just to make sure we were in the right spot at the right time.
And we did have something happen during the bronze pour, which you will see in the documentary. Something occurred, which was kind of an emergency. And but it allowed us to have kind of a story arc to show how that got fixed and quickly. And so, sometimes these difficulties can be used, as you know, Gemma, in making the story come alive because you actually see how they deal with a potential crisis. And so it was really fascinating. And sometimes Ben would contact me by text and say, come over here right now. And there's a fair amount of phone footage actually in this documentary as well, because we just had to react as quickly as possible and get over there when there was something that might be happening in the moment. Ben works through the night. Ben is extraordinary, and he we don't see the whole process because it was so fast, and he was sometimes working overnight in a studio right next to his house to get it done. But then he would all of a sudden call and say, hey, I think this would be something really cool to see. So I would have to rush out there. And really, he is one of our most extraordinary sculptors in the United States. And it was just an honor to be able to do this. It'll be on Sunday at 5 p.m. And it's an extra special treat for those people watching live on Idaho Public Television. Benjamin Victor is offering a tour of his studio to people. And, there will be our development department has put together a package for people to, contribute because he appreciates public television. So we're very grateful to him for that. So if you tune in live Sunday at 5 on Idaho Public Television, if you're interested in seeing a tour of his studio, that is something extra special, which I would highly recommend having. My eyes are just agog every time I go out there because of how many he has the clay versions of his sculptures are still there. That's left before it's bronzed. And I think I just want to leave people with the fact that in this age of AI, in this age of 3D printing, to have somebody who is really still, and his team, hands-on, using this ancient process is really something special, and he's right here in Boise.
So, Marcia, this sculpture, I mean, you and Troy, I'm assuming, got to see the finished bronze. And so many of us in this age group, we were school kids when the Challenger explosion happened. I remember it.
I was out of college. I'm going to date myself, but I remember it very distinctly. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, I was in middle school, and it was something that we all were, watching, right? I mean, televisions were put into classrooms so you could watch this, and we're coming up on the 40th anniversary of it in January, which is just shocking to me. But I think for so many of us, no matter how old we were, we remember this. So I'm curious, after you saw this bronze in person, what was it like? I mean, do you think Ben captured the essence of Christa McAuliffe? Because what I remember is that her curly brown hair, her smile, her walk out onto the space shuttle.
Troy, do you want,
you talk about the hair, that's a big sort of through line in the story that was weaved. And so the hair is fantastic. And just the posture of the sculpture in the end is he nailed it. Yeah.
I think for me, since I didn't know Christa, but Barbara did. Barbara was like a sister in some ways to her. One of the most emotional parts of this documentary for me, and it took a while and some convincing, I had worked with Barb before making a documentary about her, Barbara Morgan, is to have Barbara come see the sculpture herself. She was not able to go to the unveiling, but she came in. Wow. She came in to see the clay, and you will see that. Barb talks about how he got the twinkle in the eye, and so I think she's, passing inspection with Barbara is key, and she felt that it really showed her dear friend Christa so well. And there's some other little fun touches that you'll see in the documentary. Barbara lent Benjamin, I get kind of chills just even saying this. Barbara lent him one of her flight suits, so he could get an exact replica as close as possible to the suit that Christa was wearing when she passed. And so that's something, this is like kismet, right? That he was selected, and that Barbara also lives in Boise, and she knew him from Boise State because she also taught there. And so she was able to give him that suit, lent him that suit. So it all came full circle. And of course, as a documentarian, as a storyteller, as a writer, you love to see that as well. So I get emotionally choked up watching Barb see the statue each time I look at it.
Yeah, it was great
Well,
to see Barb's reaction.
I'm just getting chills by the two of you talking about it, honestly. So before I let you go, and I'd like both of you to answer this, and Troy, I'll start with you. What do you hope that people take away from watching this documentary?
Well, I mean, our purpose was to show the process. So just to, I guess my answer would be to learn about the process and how many people and how many jobs are created through this work of art. Really, there's just a lot of people and a lot of places, and it traveled a long way. And it just comes down to a little bit about the economy of the art of it.
Yeah, and
I
agree with that. To show people how many people actually touch this. But at the very end, Ben talks about something that I think is also important. He talks about following your bliss, even if that means that you want to become an artist, or go into the humanities, which is sometimes not as elevated as the STEM professions are right now. And, it was a risk for him to do this, but he felt just determined to be an artist. And he has succeeded at that. And so he wants to also be an example for all the students out there that if your love is art, pursue it. Don't let people tell you that you can't be an artist if that's something that you want to do. And that artists are an incredibly valuable part of our society. They hold a mirror up to us. And in this case, they also help preserve history. And so I'd love it if people would take that away as well. This isn't just a sculpture, but as you've alluded to, this is a way of remembering Christa, and his statues also honoring veterans, sports figures, other people, preserving them for the future.
Well, I want to thank both of you so much for taking time to talk with us about this. We've been speaking with Idaho Public Television host and producer Marsha Franklin and director and editor Troy Shreve about their documentary, Lifting Legacies, Sculptor Benjamin Victor. It airs on Created this Sunday on Idaho Public Television at 5 p.m. I'm Gemma Gaudette, and this is Idaho Matters.
How does AI even work? Where does creativity come from? What's the secret to living longer? TED Radio Hour explores the biggest questions with some of the world's greatest thinkers. They will surprise, challenge, and even change you. Listen to NPR's TED Radio Hour wherever you get your podcasts.